paid leave to be given to those who've experienced baby loss at any stage of a pregnancy. I'm joined now by Keeley Longthorne, who is a partner at Taylor Rose MW Solicitors, who is leading on this campaign. Keeley, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming in. Just tell me in your own words about your experiences and what led you to campaign on this. You know, you've experienced a lot.
Yes. So I've unfortunately experienced 3 different losses. So I had a miscarriage at 6.5 weeks 2 years ago. I miscarried at work. A year later, I then had an ectopic pregnancy, which ruptured and resulted in the removal of one of my fallopian tubes. I then undertook IVF in September last year. It was successful. I had 1 embryo that survived. Had a good pregnancy, and then my waters broke, unfortunately, at 22.5 weeks. And my son George was born on the 3rd of March this year.
So tell me, what support did you get through those tragedies?
So at the
in terms of your workplace?
So at the end part of the last year, it had become very apparent to me that New Zealand were taking a lot of action in terms of supporting employees at work. And the New Zealand president has enacted a policy which meant that every employee who suffered a miscarriage, no matter what their gestation, was entitled to 3 days paid leave. So I drafted a policy, I presented it to my firm, Taylor Rose MW, and I asked for it to be enacted in the business. It was enacted in January of this year, and unfortunately I was the first person to use it. So when I lost George, I was fortunate enough to have the full support of the business, which meant that I got paid. It became very apparent very quickly through people reaching out to me that there is no statutory protection for any pregnancy loss beyond 24 weeks.
And so that's what you're campaigning to change. The terrible trauma and tragedy that you have suffered, you decided to, I'm going to change this, I'm going to change the system. How do you go about doing that? Have any politicians supported your campaign?
Yes, so Angela Crawley MP got in contact with me, and I met with her in Parliament. She was very, very interested in my story and has now brought forward the miscarriage leave bill. So that had its first reading at the end of June, and I was very fortunate that Angela included me and George in her reading. It was a success, and it's now going for the second reading on the 16th of September.
So you are potentially changing the law, something that you have fought for is going to change the law. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
For anybody, final question, for anybody, because people go through things in their personal life regularly, and they think, actually, this has taught me that the system needs to change about a number of different things. We talk to them regularly. Do you have any words of advice for anybody who is watching this that perhaps has found something through their own personal life that is wrong with the system, wants to change things? Where do you even start?
I think the policy is a good way to start. I think we all know that laws take a long time to go through. So if you can go to your employer and present to them a baby loss policy and say, can we enact this? Now, 1 in 4 pregnancies result in miscarriage. The statistics speak for themselves. So if you can present that to your business and say, look, can you do this? Can you help us? We're in the climate where wellbeing is so topical now. And in my view, this comes to the heart and core of a wellbeing policy within your business. So go to your employer and say, can you enact this? And hopefully the law will change and mean that everyone is entitled, no matter what stage they lose their baby, to protection within the workplace.